No mai ki te hui o te committee i te arawaka tēnei rā. Welcome everyone to today's Traffic Subcommittee meeting of the 24th of April 2025. The emergency procedures are on the screen. We're all very familiar with them. I'd like to start with the opening formalities. Karakia timatanga, that's on the screen as well if you'd like to join me in karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, Māori ora. We don't have any apologies, but we do have Councillor Barrett who is on Zoom, but is currently experiencing some technical difficulties and doesn't have her camera operational at the moment, but she will be sitting in on the meeting. We have everybody here. We have nobody here for public comment. Is there anybody here who has a conflict of interest declarations? I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest that may have any relation to the items on the agenda. Chris Parkin.
Kia ora, Chair. I have an interest, as I'm a friend of the owner of the art display business on the Esplanade.
And that's item number. We'll bring it up.
Page 14.
Page 14. Thank you. Moving out to item number 5, recommendations to Te Kaunahiri o Te Kairangi Council, 29 May 2025. 5A is the proposed mobility parking restriction to Puni Street in Petone, outside Te Puni Urupa Cemetery. It's on page 6 of the agenda. And I invite Paul Hewitt, Head of Transport of Andrew Shura, Traffic Engineering, to speak to the report. Welcome to the table. Would you like to just give us a brief update?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so to Puni Street, the Council's urban design team is developing the Petone landing project, which is part of the Petone 2040 program. One of the projects included within this program is an installation of a monument to the front of the Te Puni Urupa, and that involves a curb build-out at the location of some existing broken yellow lines. During the consultation, the Petone Steering Group and Mana Whenua requested the installation of a mobility park at the Te Puni Urupa. It is therefore proposed to convert one of the existing P30 parking spaces to a P60 mobility parking at all times space to the front of the Te Puni Urupa. Consultation took place between the 4th of March and the 18th of March 2025. 20 consultation letters were delivered to property owners and placed on cars around the location. One submission was received, which was opposing the proposal. The submission noted that there would be a perceived reduction in the availability of parking caused by the curb build-out, which could have a negative impact on businesses locally to the Urupa. Council officers have looked into this, and there is no net loss of parking at this location, with the exception of the conversion of one existing P30 car park to the mobility car park. The CCS Disability Action Group in Wellington are in favour of this proposal as well, and the Petone Community Board has endorsed the recommendation at their meeting on the 14th of April. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Members, do anybody have a question? Everything is looking good on this report. I then move the recommendations 1 to 4 on page 6. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tupou, is there any debate? Councillor Tupou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to thank the officers, that I think it's quite a simple solution of converting one of the existing P30 car parks. And so, Madam Chair, I think it's important that the kaumātua have access to what is a historical significant site, but also still an active Urupa today. So with that, I support this motion. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor Tupou. Totally agree with your comments about Kaumātua down there. It's a beautiful space there for the Urupa. So thank you for your comments. I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Item 5B, proposed time-limited parking, 223 the Esplanade, Petone, page 14 of the agenda. And officers, if you can report to this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Council officers have received a request from the business owner at number 223 the Esplanade, who has sought time-restricted parking outside his business to better accommodate customers to his shop. This report proposes the conversion of 2 existing unrestricted parking spaces to P60 time-restricted parks. These will be P60 during business hours. Consultation took place between the 21st of February to the 7th of March, which covered a catchment area of around 100 metres around the proposed spaces. 59 consultation letters were delivered to property owners and placed on cars in the vicinity. I'd note that consultation was taking place after we'd spoken to the business owner with the proposal, and he was happy with the 2 spaces being time restricted outside his business. 2 submissions were received following through the consultation. One was in favour and one was against the proposal. The submission against the proposal raised concerns about the loss of residential parking in the area. Council engineers have assessed this submission and the parking in the vicinity, and note that properties typically have got off-street parking up around the Esplanade and side streets, and the proposed changes would not result in a significant loss of parking, as residents will still have access to the on-street parking outside of business hours. The Petone Community Board has endorsed this recommendation at their meeting on the 14th of April also. Happy to take any questions.
Before we put it to members, just to wish to raise your point of conflict in regards to this, Councillor Parkin, I don't think it removes you from any discussion or any voting. Does any member have a question? Oh, sorry, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. Yes. Hey, I took a look at the website and Facebook page of the gallery and noted that it is open on Saturdays and Sundays. So I was wondering why the proposal was only for weekdays. I think if anything, I would guess the residential pressure on those parks might be greater in the weekend than during business hours.
Thanks for the question. Usually we install the P60 during business hours or at all times restrictions. If we would install the restrictions at all times, there would be an impact to property owners. That's for this reason we, when discussing with the art gallery property owner, we did agree with the owner to have those restrictions during business hours, standard hours.
So we can't specify the hours 8 till 6, but Monday to Sunday?
We could have those restrictions. However, based on with the conversation with the business owners, he did seem to have more issues during the weekdays because of those 60 minutes tolerance of parking. Usually on weekends, there are visitors coming from the Esplanade who will have parking around the bay side of the Esplanade.
Are there any other questions? Okay. So I move that recommendations 1 to 4 on page 14. Do I have a second? Councillor Parkin, is there any debate? I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to item 5C, proposed time limit parking, Durham, Crescent and Fairfield outside the Puni kindergarten. It's on page 21 of the agenda. And if you'd like to speak to the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Council officers have received a request from the Epuni kindergarten on Durham Crescent to install time-limited car parking outside their property at 50 Durham Crescent to assist with the accessibility of the facility during drop-off and pick-up periods. It is therefore that we've recommended to convert one existing unrestricted parking space to P10, operating Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m, being the operating times of the kindergarten. When the engineers were on site, council engineers have identified an existing mobility park that is currently obstructing, or partially obstructing, a driveway at 48A Durham Crescent. It is proposed as well to move this mobility park to outside 50 Durham Crescent, and that will retain the existing parking periods, or validity periods of the mobility park. Due to the high demand for residential parking in this area, this mobility parking space will not be operating at all times. Prior to any consultation, the proposed option was discussed with the kindergarten, who were in favour of it. Consultation took place between the 21st of February and the 7th of March 2025, and 35 consultation letters were delivered to property owners and distributed to CARS, as well as given to the kindergarten, who distributed it to parents and caregivers. One submission was received, which was from the kindergarten, that proposed reducing the P10 hours from what was originally noted in the consultation as 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to what is recommended and proposed, the 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, the paper reads like the primary purpose of the mobility car park is for kindergarten use. Is that the case?
That's correct.
I just noted the difference in language on the two signs, and I'm always here advocating for keeping things simple. The P10 parking space will say 8:30 to 3:30 Monday to Friday, but the mobility one says 8:30 to 3:30 on kindergarten days only, and I feel that on kindergarten's days only is a little bit ambiguous and maybe requires a bit of work from the parker to figure out or find out if it's a kindergarten day. And I just wonder if those signs can both say Monday to Friday, just for A, consistency, and B, simplicity and ease of understanding.
We could do that, Councillor.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. I think that's a good point. I move recommendations 1 to 7 on page 21. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell. Seconder from Councillor Barrett. Is there any debate? Put the motion, which has now been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I declare the motion carried. Just so you know, Councillor Barrett, there's a little bit of echo or noise, background noise coming through. We'd like to move to item 5D, proposed time-limited parking, Alicetown Playcentre parking on Victoria Street in Alicetown. It's page 29 of the agenda. Can you speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This resolution is for the conversion of 7 existing P120 parking spaces to P180 at all times at 64 Victoria Street, Lower Hutt, Alicetown, near the Alicetown Playcentre. This proposal was made following a request from the Alicetown Playcentre for time restrictions to better align with the approximately 3-hour session times that are held at the Playcentre. Through this, there is no proposed changes to any of the other on-street parking on Victoria Street. Consultation took place between the 21st of February to the 7th of March 2025 and covered a catchment area of around 100 metres of the proposed site. 25 consultation letters were delivered to property owners and businesses, including placing letters on parked vehicles nearby, as well as through the Playcentre, notification be given to caregivers and parents. One response was received, which was from the Playcentre, and that was in favour of the proposal. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. So my maths gives 180 minutes as 3 hours. I'm just intrigued that the conversations that I've had with emails and Councillor Mitchell's had with Alicetown Playcentre has noted that actually some of their sessions run for 4 hours. Have we actually had a physical conversation with the people on duty within that Playcentre to ensure that we're actually setting the time limits to deal with the issue?
Through the chair. Thank you, councillor. Yes, we did meet with representatives of the Playcentre in the car park to discuss a resolution to the issues that they had, and they were happy with the 3 hour time limit. That at the time they indicated that their sessions were around the 3 hour mark.
Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I think this has been maybe the third time this has been through since I've been a councillor, and I remember the issue when we first put the time limits in was to do with car yards in the area, using that car park for long-term storage of cars effectively. In your conversations with the Playcentre, did they mention, has that issue been solved by having the time limits in there, or is that still an ongoing issue as well?
When we met with the Playcentre, they didn't indicate that that was a current issue. Obviously, there's across the fence there is a large car yard there now, and they indicated that as far as they were aware, the car park was used either by patrons of the Playcentre or the park nearby.
In addition, based on the inquiries that we have been receiving from the public, there has been no requests related to that.
So just confirming you did receive a positive response from the kindergarten in regards to this proposal.
Yes, Chair, we did.
Councillor Mitchell.
And just to confirm too, the sign will say at all times, so it's every day of the week, right?
The intention is to have those restrictions Monday to Friday when the issue is major, mostly because during business hours there is more parking demand along Victoria Street.
Councillor Parkin.
Sorry, Chair, I'm not sure where I sit with this one. I have, and I was just looking at the emails stating that the Playcentre needed 4 hours for 3 of their sessions. I've just checked their website. It says that they run 4-hour sessions 3 times a week. I'm not quite sure, I'm not confident that we have actually asked the right people, having been involved with Playcentre. There are different teams that deal with different days, and I would really appreciate a definite confirmation from those 3 days that do a 4-hour session, that we're not just changing something that actually is not going to suit the vast majority of the Playcentre parents.
Would you like to respond to that?
Our intention of the proposal was to also balance parking needs for all other users, not necessarily only for the Playcentre. So that's one of the reasons why we agreed on the P180, which was also agreed with the Playcentre.
And just to check my understanding, Councillor Parkin, you mentioned about 3 only 4-hour sessions. My assumption is there are a number of other sessions that are less than 4 hours. Is that the case? Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? I therefore move that recommendations 1 to 4 on page 29 are moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell. Is there any debate? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, kind of happy to approve this with reservations, and I think the conversations Councillor Parkin's referring to are from a previous time this came through council, not from since this paper's been put before us. I do agree with the point that play centres, because I've been involved also, are a mixed bag, and they generally have a decision-making committee and a president. And last time we discussed this, the president of that play centre came and appealed to us and told us exactly what was going to work for them, and I think that's what was in those emails as well. So I'm a bit surprised that P180 is what they've asked for. However, if that's what they've asked, then happy to approve these changes, and we may well hear from them again if it doesn't work for them.
I'm sure we will. Now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to item 5E, broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times between 22 and 26 City View Grove Harbour View, page 36 of the agenda. If the officers can read to this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This resolution is for the introduction of broken yellow lines, no stopping at all time restrictions in the cul-de-sac of City View Grove between properties 22 and 26. Council officers received a request from Waste Management regarding accessibility issues their vehicles were having in the City View cul-de-sac where vehicles were parking in the turning head. Council engineers have visited the site and completed vehicle tracking assessments, which have confirmed that Waste Management trucks or other large vehicles would have difficulty turning in the cul-de-sac with the presence of parked vehicles. Therefore, 40 metres of broken yellow lines are proposed to reduce the potential for any vehicle accidents at this location. Consultation on the implementation of broken yellow lines took place between the 21st of February and the 7th of March, covering the catchment area of around 100 metres from the proposed site. 36 consultation letters were delivered to property owners. 2 submissions were received and both were in favour of the proposal. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? I move that recommendations 1 to 4 on page 36. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parkin. Is there any debate? I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Item 5F, broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times between 162 and 168 Normandale Road, Normandale, on page 43 of the agenda. Can you speak to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This resolution is for the introduction of broken yellow lines, no stopping at all time restrictions between 162 and 168 Normandale Road in Normandale. Council officers have received a request from residents regarding safety concerns relating to cars parking on this narrow section of Normandale Road between properties 162 and 168. This carriageway is approximately 4.5 metres wide and is bound by a footpath on one side and a steep drop-off on the other side. The recent housing development has resulted in vehicles at times parking over the footpath, which has resulted in pedestrians needing to walk down the road rather than along the existing footpath. Following a site visit by council engineers, it has been proposed to install broken yellow lines on both sides of the road from the intersection with Petone Road through to the entrance of the housing development at 166 Normandale Road. Consultation on this took place between the 21st of February and the 7th of March 2025. 34 consultation letters were delivered to property owners and placed on parked vehicles. 2 submissions were received back as part of this consultation, neither of them directly related to the installation of broken yellow lines. One submission commented on the width of the footpath, saying that it was deemed to be inadequate. Council officers will look at this as a separate piece of work in line with other requests for changes to footpaths in the city. The second commented on a perceived vehicle speeds along the section of Normandale Road. Council officers during their site visit generally deemed that vehicles were travelling at an adequate speed through this section given its narrow width and didn't see any perceived problem at that time. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. Just a follow-up question with the perception of vehicle speeds. were there vehicles parked on either side of the road where we're going to be putting the broken yellow lines in at that time? And the reason that I'm asking that is that those roads feel narrower when we have vehicles. And as I know we've had conversations about, that perception of narrowness reduces speed. And yeah, I'm just wondering, is there something we can do in terms of ongoing monitoring to see whether or not it has an effect on actual vehicle speeds? Obviously, perception is one thing, but actually monitoring with data is also really useful.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We'll take that on board and we will look to put out some speed monitoring devices to see what is happening up there in the future once the broken yellow lines are in place.
Councillor Tupou, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a sort of a higher level question, and that's, when there are new developments, do we consider the impact of those developments on the roads that they sit on? Because certainly in Wainuiomata and other places, you notice that those townhouses that don't have allowance of space for their vehicles are trying to park wherever they can, including sometimes on broken yellow lines. So do we actually, is there something in our system that prompts someone from traffic to go out and speak to the developers?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair. We do, in the transport space, work alongside the consenting and the development teams when these requests are coming through. To a point, our hands are somewhat tied with the allowances for the developments to be able to go ahead as they are within the rules that surround the establishment of these developments. We do try to protect the roads where we can and identify issues, particularly around parking or access or any other flow-on impacts they may have. Whether we get traction, though, that's a different story. But we do work with the teams where we can to try and identify these problems and get them resolved at the first point.
I'm just looking at the photo provided to us. It's not one of those highly intensive housing developments. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses with parking provided. But I think this is an extensive piece of broken yellow line, 150 metres, and I think anything that improves the safety of our roads is a good thing. Any other questions? Right, I move recommendations 1 to 4 on page 43. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell, is there any debate? And I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? I declare the motion carried. Item 5G, proposal to streamline consultation process for parking and traffic restrictions under delegated authority. This is on page 50 of the agenda. Paul, if you'd like to report to this, please.
Thank you, Chair. This paper seeks approval for changes to the consultation for the implementation of particular restrictions in accordance with the noted provisions of the Land Transport Road User Rule 2004. The Land Transport Rule enables the delegation of certain functions to roles within the Council, which are noted in the delegations made by the Chief Executive in January 2025. The proposed changes are only to a handful of safety-based situations, and we're looking to restrict consultation only to those immediately impacted by the proposed changes, and then get the changes implemented, assuming obviously any feedback through the consultation is in line with moving forward. We would then provide feedback on the changes that have been made to both the community boards, where applicable, and to the traffic subcommittee. The feedback would be retrospective and made at the next available meeting. The situations this would be applied where there is parking close to corners or intersections for the installation of broken yellow lines. For the installation of broken yellow lines where there is an obstruction to driveways or there is repeated vehicles parking across driveways, or for the installation of giveaway or stop controls. It is estimated that undertaking this revised process would approximately halve the duration between council receiving a request for any of these devices to be installed and having them implemented. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. I think there'll be a lot of people happy to know that this process can be moved a little bit quicker, especially when it comes to safety elements. Is there any questions? Councillor Parkin.
Through you, Chair, just wondering if officers could give us examples from today's meeting as to which of these would not have gone through the full consultation and which of them would.
I'll start with situations on which we would be installing broken lines. One of them, it would be outside of driveways when we have a process of identifying when parking officers would have been undertaking parking enforcement outside of those driveways. So when there is a reasonable justification for those broken lines to be installed, we would proceed with those requests as long as the property owner would be satisfied with the proposal. When it comes to broken lines within intersection, that would be within 6 meters of an intersection to allow safer turning movement onto those side roads. And also in situations on which there are bands that limit visibility for drivers approaching the band. And lastly, in situations on which there is a give way or stop control. For all other requests, we would continue to have the process of traffic resolution.
I'd also add, through the chair, that of the resolutions that have gone through today, which are around mobility parking and time-restricted parking, none of them would have gone through the revised process. That they would be status quo.
Okay. Councillor Parkin.
But, for example, the City View Grove one would, because it's in front of driveways?
That one isn't specifically in front of driveways. This is right through the cul-de-sac there. So where we're talking about in front of driveways is where vehicles are parking literally across the front of a driveway, obstructing access to the driveway.
Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, you mentioned, and we discussed this at a prior meeting, streamlining this stuff, and it's great that it's happening. You mentioned that they would be reported retrospectively to community boards and traffic subcommittee. I was just curious about the process in paragraph 14, which still includes, it says in there, week 7 plan shared with relevant community boards, if applicable. Is that to seek some kind of approval from a community board?
Our intention with the process, as per item 12, on week 7, we would be sharing the plans with community boards. If there would be any opposition coming from them, we would proceed with the traffic resolution process.
So community boards will still have a say in the decision, but this committee won't outside of community board areas?
What's being referred to is that the plans, if it is within a community board area, they'd just be shared because they have a wide knowledge of their specific areas, so Petone, Eastbourne or Wainui-a-Mata. And then the endorsement would be sought at their next meeting.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused by that, particularly with the goal of streamlining it. Like, I'm just for streamlining it. There's such basic changes that are requested and don't really require specific local knowledge. That's the point of taking them out of our committee meeting structure. I mean, in that plan, you've got in week 7, after a request is received, that's when you'll go to a community board. They're on a 8-week cycle, the same as we are. So you could be waiting another potentially 7.5 weeks until you have that opportunity again. And it just feels like you're blowing out the time frame again unnecessarily. Like, in my opinion, if you're not going to bring decisions to this committee outside community board areas, nor should you be taking them to community boards in community board areas, because you're then treating decisions differently in different parts of the city. I think, like in the aim of simplicity, which is what this is for, I would take out that week 7 community board process altogether.
I'd just like to add to Councillor Mitchell's thoughts as well too, and I tend to agree too. So these items are a retrospect of the actions already happened. You're basically sharing information, and it's been done, and the intention is to speed the process up where danger exists. So if you can just speak to a little bit more to that.
To clarify, the plans will be shared with community boards via email. So that will be a week turnaround for a reply coming from them. We will not be presenting at the community board meetings those plans.
Councillor Parkin first.
I agree with Councillor Mitchell that we have an inconsistency here, and that means that the areas with community boards have extra representation and an extra step in the process. If we are going to share with community boards, then theoretically you should also be sharing with the local ward councillor for the ones that are not. And I'm quite happy with Councillor Mitchell's proposal of just not having it in there, because I don't think it's a step that's needed.
Through the chair, thank you, councillor. We'd be happy to remove that step from the process.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for being flexible on that matter. I think it's a good point raised. I think we just need, there are some parts of the things that you do just need to move on and be done for the sake of safety for our residents. So there's no need to change the recommendations that we have here. So I will move that recommendations 1 to 3 on page 50. And that if you can just take into account that we shall remove paragraph 14, week 7, and items will be shared with community boards. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell, is there any debate? I've now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, say no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you for bringing that paper to us. I think it's a good one. Item number 6, information item, Traffic Subcommittee Forward Program for 2025 and status update of approved traffic resolutions on page 55 of the agenda. Would you like to speak to this report, or should we just go straight to questions?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to go straight to questions on this one.
Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. I've had a number of questions come up around the safety and our safety risk matrix. I'm just wondering if we can schedule something in on an update of where things are sitting with that.
Through you, Madam Chair. Could you clarify the safety risk matrix? What are you referring to?
So we've been prioritising local work in terms of what things need to be done and prioritising them by risk. That matrices was introduced in the last triennium, and just an update on how that's working and how we're incorporating new incidences and risks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the matrix you referred to is in constant use as requests are coming through, and we'd be happy to provide an update at the next Traffic Subcommittee meeting.
Is it something that can be added as a column to the traffic dashboard, resolution dashboard?
We'll probably have a think about the best way to present it, but it could be just an additional table to follow on with the Forward Works program, or as a separate paper.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. Thank you for that traffic resolution dashboard, particularly the table of jobs which are still open that we requested at the last meeting. It's really useful to see them laid out like that. It's interesting to note that most of the older outstanding jobs are allocated to third parties. I was just curious what's done to ensure those are implemented in a timely fashion. And I sent through a elected members request in February about the proposed time restricted parking outside Nainai Pool. It was approved 8 months ago. The pool's been open for 5 months and they still haven't marked the short-term P10s, which are for drop-off right outside the pool. And I've noticed people using mobility parks as their drop-off parks because there are no marked drop-off parks. So I was just wondering why that's taking so long and what's been done to try and keep those third parties on task and getting their jobs done promptly.
Through you, Chair. Thank you for that feedback, Councillor. And it probably is an area we do need to improve on, is following up on the third-party works. These third-party works are like the likes of Nainai Pool, the changes to Wainoiamata College through the construction work they've had, and various other similar situations which we don't directly instruct contractors to undertake that work, and it's an area we need to sharpen up on to follow up on the implementation where works have been completed and the parking restrictions should be in place.
Thank you. Yeah, and I acknowledged that some of them make a lot of sense, that potentially there are good reasons why they're being held up. The Greater Wellington ones around bus stops, for example, if they have a reason why those bus stop changes have been delayed or they're waiting on, physical shelters or whatever it is, maybe that could be included in here as well. But yeah, the Nainai Pool one was interesting because we literally built that pool. It was our contractors, and the pool was signed off and completed 5 or 6 months ago, but that follow-up work hasn't been done. So yeah, any work that could be done just to maybe provide a little more detail in future, particularly with the longer term overdue. Some of these were only decided at the last meeting and I'm not surprised they haven't been done yet, but some of those longer term ones, the reasons why they haven't been implemented yet, just as part of the check-in with those third-party providers. Thank you.
Councillor Dyer.
Thank you. It's really good having that list there of the traffic resolutions that we're still waiting to get through. One, I thought that was in the backlog to be done because it's not been completed, but it's not on the list. So if you could have a look into what's happened with it, is the mobility car park and drop curb outside the mobility centre on High Street, 166 High Street. We signed off dropping the curb so wheelchairs could get into it, and it's not been done, and that was signed off nearly a year ago. So it'd be good to get an update on that. If it hasn't happened, why hasn't it happened? Be good to report back. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, just in regards to the dashboard, it is very useful to be able to go back. So following each meeting that we have, if those things can just be added to this matrix to bring back to the next meeting, would give us a really good idea on where we're at. Councillor Parkin.
Sorry, Councillor Barrett just sent through her apologies. Her PC's shut down and she can't get back in.
Are there any other questions? No. I move recommendations 1 and 2 on page 55. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell, I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. And thank you for the notice on Councillor Barrett losing transmission there. Item 7, questions. Received no questions. We now move to closing formalities, karakia whakamutunga. It's on the screen. If you'd like to join me in karakia, before we do that, I'd just like to thank the officers for your work in the past few months. Appreciate the work you're doing. Unahia, unahia. Unahia i te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua e te ara takatū. Koe rā e rongo whakarehia ake ki runga, kia wātia, ai rā kua wātia hau pai marire. I declare the meeting closed at 2:47. Thank you very much.